Well, thank you, Vanessa, and it's a great pleasure to be here this afternoon. I've been asked to speak about international tax competitiveness and how the UK system fares against our international competitors. And in some respects, I'm not sure I'm the best person in the room to do that, because I recognise that in a global business environment, it isn't the politicians, even those politicians like me who are responsible for national tax policies, that make the ultimate call about what tax systems which tax systems are the most competitive or the most attractive. It's the businesses that are represented in this room today, and those businesses vote with their feet. But what I can talk about is the efforts that this government has made over the last 4 years to ensure that when multinationals are looking for a place to locate their headquarters, or when entrepreneurs are looking for a place to start their new businesses, then this country is a place they consider. And since we came to office, we've been working towards achieving those goals in two main ways. First, by making our own tax system as competitive as possible, and second, by taking action to reform international tax rules so that international tax competition takes place in a fair environment. In short, we want a tax system that is simple, competitive and fair, and supports economic growth and investment. Now, I know we've got a lot of tax experts in the room today, so I won't regurgitate all of the changes we've made in great detail. But since 2010, we've cut corporation tax from 28% to 21%, and in a year's time, it will fall again to just 20%. To spur innovation, we've introduced the patent box and the above-the-line tax credit for research and development. We've modernised our controlled foreign company regime. We've cultivated a generous environment for oil and gas exploration, and we're supporting the creative sector through a number of targeted tax reliefs. And at the budget last month, we announced further tax incentives to support business by doubling the annual investment allowance to £500,000, increasing the R&D credit for innovative companies, and overhauling the UK Export Finance Direct Lending Programme. It is not just about the competitive rates, reliefs and allowances. How we make tax law is important. In 2010, we published a corporate tax roadmap setting out what we were going to do and also, perhaps more importantly, explaining what we were not going to do. We've also established a new tax policy making process, ensuring proper consultation and the early publication of draft legislation, enabling us to refine and improve our legislation. And the importance of tax administration can be underestimated. We recognise that our tax administrators need to understand major taxpayers. We've made sure that the largest 2,000 corporations in the UK have their own dedicated relationship managers at Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, who can support those organisations and help to ensure that they are paying the correct amount of tax. And that system exists because it's in everyone's interests to have a strong working relationship that will ensure revenues are paid fully and that any disputes or queries can be played out quickly without expensive litigation. This is not about being a soft touch, far from it. Tough action is taken wherever necessary, but a constructive relationship built on trust between the taxpayer and the tax collector continues to bring in revenue for the UK Exchequer and add to the attractiveness of the UK system. But as I said before, we'll only know if those policies are working if we see that they are encouraging companies to move here, or stay here, or expand here. And every week, new companies are announcing moves to the UK. In the past month alone, we've seen a range of announcements from major firms moving headquarters to the UK or unveiling new investment projects here. Firms like Siemens, Hitachi Rail, Brit Insurance and Proteus Digital Health have all made very positive announcements in the past few weeks. and business surveys too reflect the positive impact of the corporation tax reforms. For the past 2 years, the UK has ranked highest in the KPMG survey on international tax competitiveness. In an HMRC survey earlier this year, 9 in 10 businesses said the corporation tax cuts had been good for the UK's competitive position. And when I managed to escape Westminster during the parliamentary recess to get around the globe to persuade people of the merits of the UK's tax system, I'm constantly met with a receptive audience. As Vanessa has mentioned, last week I was in New York, Boston and Chicago in discussions with a large number of companies, and I can say that the response was extremely positive, and I hope that will lead to further investment on our shores in future. More broadly, the tax reforms are a central plank of our economic strategy, and that strategy is working. The IMF says that the UK will grow faster than any other G7 economy this year. Employment is at record levels, business confidence is high, and business investment is forecast to grow rapidly. So we have taken great strides to make the UK more competitive and better equipped for the global race. And we are seeing the results of that action. But as I said previously, we also know that any competition needs to be fair. The UK government wants an international system with simple and fair rules that ensures all companies pay their share, and that will require action at the international level. We shouldn't really be surprised that the current international tax rules need reforming. They were first developed nearly 100 years ago. And we need to change them, yes, so they continue to support free trade and ensure a level playing field for businesses, but also to address weaknesses where, for example, multinationals can use cross-border business structures or finance transactions that exploit differences between two countries' tax rules. So driving forward reform of on the international stage is another priority area for the UK. And it's for that reason that we've taken a lead role so far on the international stage through the Base Erosion and Profit Shifting, or BEPS project, that seeks to address tax avoidance. It's for that reason, too, that we'll continue to work through the G20 and the OECD on the digital economy, on coherence, on substance, and on transparency to make sure that this area is properly reformed. Now, I'll be happy for you to ask me more detailed questions on that work during the Q&A, but I want to be very clear on 2 things. First, the BEPS project is not about bashing business. Many in the business community acknowledge that in some cases the international tax rules have failed to keep pace with globalization. And those businesses recognize that we need to work together so that those tax rules can support sustainable cross-border trade and investment. And second, if reform in this area is to be effective, it needs to be multilateral, a point made by the Lord Mayor. Unilateral or uncoordinated actions by governments in isolation could result in either double taxation or double non-taxation. So we recognise that this is an international problem and that it requires an international solution. And we will be taking forward work at an international level. And although any change will involve uncertainties and compromises, the direction of travel in the BEPS process suggests that there is a big prize available. Most observers believe that there will be a stronger link between economic substance and tax. And as the 6th largest economy in the world, we have the skills base, infrastructure, and cultural diversity you would expect of a large economy. We are somewhere people want to be. But, and this is unusual for such a country, we offer a competitive tax system, not as a haven, not as a location for brass plates, but as somewhere to locate jobs and investment. So the UK government believes in a low corporation tax rate. We believe in a simple system that taxes profits in the UK, and we believe in a good working relationship between companies and tax officials where aggressive behaviour is clamped down on. Now, in the 4 years since I walked through the doors of the Treasury, I'm confident that the government has taken the right decisions to create a competitive tax system that encourages growth and investment. Do I believe our work is done? Absolutely not. The truth is that businesses have choices. Last week in Chicago, I met a tax director for a multinational which operates in 80 countries. If that business wishes to expand its operations, it has got up to 80 options. If a country is to ensure that, as often as possible, it is chosen as the place for further investment, it has to make a compelling case. We must constantly ask ourselves, are we making that compelling case? And I believe that our case goes stronger by the month. I believe we are on course to creating a tax system that is fairer, more competitive, and more robust. And I believe that now isn't the time to reverse the progress made, but to stick to the course that we've set out. As I said at the outset, though, it's ultimately up to businesses to decide just how competitive the system I've described is. So I look forward to hearing your views and the views of everyone on the panel and learning to see whether you agree. Thank you very much.